no lo quiero decir en inglés, pero era más o menos así, y luego le robaban peleas, ¿eh? I remember watching one in YouTube where you got robbed, man. I got pissed off.
Man, it's so hard, and in the professional game, especially when you're a promoter's main boy. It's very hard, isn't it, as a pro? And when you're not the promoter's boy, and you're the opponent all the time, it's very, very hard. And as it goes, I was always the opponent, so the career was so hard for me.
The away fighter, yeah, he was the away fighter, wasn't you, mate?
All the time. I was always the away fighter, and it makes it hard for you. You turn up and you've lost before you've even fought.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, man. You were never the A side.
No, so, always a B. Always a B side.
Yeah. Yes, Steve. I got you.
Yeah.
You are. Are you recording now?
What
happened to me?
Steve, what happened to your Twitter account?
Basically, where I've kind of built up quite a high profile in terms of numbers and stuff, there's a certain sort of football supporting base that they don't take too kindly to my banter and my kind of mickey taking, and they do everything they can to get me off, and it's an obsession. But it's fine. It's what happens. You kind of get it's the nature of the beast, effectively. So yeah, unfortunately, that's the second one that's gone now, and yeah, we start again. We move again, and people like what I do. So the minority doesn't. So it's it's a kind of a bit of a fingers up scenario to those guys.
He's got to be a good boy. That's what he's got to be.
Yeah, Mr. Steve got his Twitter account blocked, just like Donald Trump. You know what I mean? He's being too popular.
I wouldn't say Mr. I'm as popular as Donald Trump, but I'll take that. Fantastic. What time is it over there then? Whereabouts are you? Are you in Mexico, or are you in America, or whereabouts are you?
I'm in Mexico City, and Mr. is about 2-hour drive from here. It's a city called Pachuca. That's actually very close to where the Brits brought the game of football for the first time in Mexico, which was in Real del Monte, about just in the outskirts of where Meyran lives. That's where football got originated, and we have a first division team called Pachuca. In our main league. It's not my team, but that's where Mr. lives. So every time we used to announce on Saturdays boxing cards, he used to take a bus here and stay over with a friend of his who passed away while we were at some point when we were doing boxing cards. So for the rest of the time, he used my guest room here, so he didn't have to stay in a hotel, and we could go for some tacos or something after the fight. So that was fun. It became a tradition. Yeah.
Okay. Did you charge him rent for staying over?
No. He has compensated me with his wisdom. You know what I mean? And we always go for lunch before or whatever, and we have long chats. So he's an open book, you know what I mean? So
but Juan is a very close friend. He's a very great person, and he gave the keys, and he told me, Mister, here's the keys of my home. Is your home?
Wow!
It's a great friend.
Oh, amazing! How
long have you been friends for? How long have you been friends for?
Well, it's a very tricky anecdote, mate, because we started as enemies. Because there was one time where they didn't send me to the card as let me tell you the anecdote because it's kind of funny.
Yes.
This was back in not too long ago, Rich. I'll say around 2016 or around there.
No. 16.
They
Yes.
sent me
to the beginning to the 16.
Yeah, 2015. I think it was the conflict, and so what happened is that he was being always the analyst for Noche de Puños, which means Night of Fist. You know, that was the name of the cards we were announcing every Saturday, and there was this one time he was the analyst and I was one of the two announcers. Normally, the Mexican formula is two announcers, one commentator, one analyst or two analysts. You know what I mean? Like a former boxer, or in his case, a former referee, right? The analyst and we as announcer, we go, play by play. So this time they didn't send me to this card as a commentator, but as an analyst, not as an announcer, but as an analyst. So Meyran didn't like that for the start, you know what I mean? Like, because he got benched that night. It was the first time that he wasn't sent to the boxing card. So for starters, he said, I mean, who is this guy Obregón? You know what I mean? So what happened, there was this fight where this guy won the round, but he got 1 point deducted. And I made the blunder to say that the scorecard was, they said, okay, so what's the score for this round, Juan? And I said 9-9. And Meyran went to gossip that I gave a wrong, because he opposes the existence of 9-9s. He says he has to be 10-10. I mean, if a round gets draw, even if one guy gets a point deducted, it's a whole discussion. But the way he pointed to a guy who always disliked me at the broadcast, it was like equivalent to if it was a football game and I was saying that there was a penalty kick outside the area, you know what I mean, outside the box. You know what I mean? Like a complete, which my mistake wasn't as bad. You know what I mean? I just gave a 9-9, but it became a whole gossip. So they freeze me for 11 months because of that mistake.
Really?
I didn't come in.
You're joking.
He's wrong.
So
you never can put in a card 9-9. That qualification is no good.
Always a 10-9.
No,
10,
I recognize.
Or 10-8.
I recognize my mistake.
Round.
No. I agree. I mean, I recognize my mistake. It was my bad. But, however, it wasn't a blunder. You know what I mean? It was just, it's something that got magnified because of the other guys. You know, he was a little jealous, not Meyran, but the other guy that they were programming me quite often. So it became a whole thing. I don't know. I mean, something good came out of it because in those months where I got freezed, I went to Germany, Czechia, and Russia to shoot our documentary Torre por Torre. So it actually worked out for me. And after those 11 months, I went back as an announcer, which is what I like. I don't like to be an analyst. I like to be the announcer. I talk a lot, so I like to be the announcer. So then once they got me back in the game, it was together with Mr. So after I said monkey business, Mr. I said, I'm not going to hold a grudge to you, or I said to him, no hard feelings. Let's start from scratch. Okay. And we did great, and people began to like our chemistry in the microphone. And so from then on, that's where his nickname became kind of famous, and people knew him as a referee, but now also people knows him as a boxing analyst. So it was great.
Juan, in our country, refereeing, you have to retire at a certain age. Does that same apply in Mexico? Does it apply the same way that you have a certain time to referee and then you have to knock it on the head sort of thing? Because in England, in Britain, you have to retire at a certain age. I think it's 60. I think you have to retire by your 60. You can't continue.
I think he's 70. I think Foster is in his 60s.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, 60s.
I think
Mister, te pregunta Arf.
Yeah,
exactly. Te pregunta Arf si en México te tienes que retirar a una cierta edad porque en Inglaterra hay un límite de edad para el referí.
And in WBC organization, 70 years is the top of the age for the referees. That more than less. And now in Las Vegas, we saw two different referees. Robert Bird, 80 years, 80.
Okay.
And who's the other one? An oldest referee?
Was that the one that has a son that is not as good as him? Let me tell you.
But where the top, and in WBC, the top of the year is 70 years.
Okay, and then
retire the referee.
Okay, then, and it's also a rule to say that you can't referee in the ring, but you can judge outside the ring. Is there another rule with that where you may be able to referee to your certain age, but once you finish refereeing, you're still allowed to judge outside the ring?
Que si una vez que te retiras como referee por la edad, puedes todavía ser juez, mister.
Yes, it's correct. I'm going to answer that. But the many people in Mexico, the most of the people of the referees changed to be judges in this moment. That is correct. Your appreciation is correct.
Juan, I was going to say to you, do you take much notice of the refereeing scene over in the UK?
Do we take much notice?
I know
what,
quite often you watch the boxing. Do you take much notice of the refereeing scene over in the boxing in the UK and stuff? I know you watch quite a bit of boxing, but I don't know whether you took much notice of that, because we've got a guy called Terry O'Connor, and Rich will back me up on this. There's no word for him, is there really, Rich?
We do take notice, and for instance, it was quite controversial for us when George Groves got stopped against Carl Froch in their first fight.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was kind of big here. And Mister, pregunta Steve que si nos percatamos mucho de los referees en Reino Unido. Háblale un poquito de eso, si puedes, Mister.
We now we have the opportunity right now to watch boxing fights in United Kingdom. Then we saw many referees of there, and they are a very good referees, but I think it's a controversial. Cuando finaliza el round, Juan.
When the round ends, there's a controversy. Oh, when the fight ends.
Finish the fight.
Oh,
when they finish the fight.
Pero ¿a qué te refieres, Mister? ¿Que las detienen mal?
Sí, o sea, que se tardan en detener la pelea, que le dan mucho margen para y se salen muy lastimados.
Ya te entiendo. In Octavio's opinion, the only flaw that he finds in British refereeing in boxing is that the referees take too long in put a hold to the contest. I mean, to the fight. Once, you know what I mean? They allowed boxers to get too punished when there's no coming back in the fight. You know what I mean? They let him live a little too long.
Did you watch the fight between Josh Warrington and Lara at the weekend?
Of course.
Okay.
Mister, que si viste pelea de,
Yes,
del
yes,
Bronco Lara con Josh Warrington.
I think the referee must stop the fight in the 4th round.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Everyone agrees. Everyone agreed. Everyone is agreed.
Because he
todo el mundo está de acuerdo, mister.
yes, I know. That is exactly the example for this fight is correct.
Yeah.
Juan, I was going to say to you and Mr. A question that it's come up quite often over Twitter in the last sort of 2 to 4 weeks, really. With Mexican fighters, it seems like someone like Josh Warrington has got that fight with Lara, thinking it's just a straightforward, simple fight. It'll be another win for me just to add to my record. But we very rarely see a Mexican fighter come over and not be any good. They're top quality, but no one knows a lot about them. And everyone expected Warrington just to walk that fight easily. And the power that Lara had was incredible, and the skills. What is it about Mexican boxers that is such a mystery that no one really knows a lot about, and then they come over and prove themselves? Is there something behind the training or something around the way that they do things?
It's a good question. It actually surprises us as well, because we used to come in a lot of preliminaries with very unknown boxers, and sometimes, Meyran and I, those were the fights that we enjoyed the most, because you know what I mean. It was like, where did this guy come from? It's kind of amazing. I think there was a factor in Warrington's camp of underestimating the opponent. I mean, because you see the names that Lara had, and in his record, and they were not impressive names. So I understood that Josh Warrington took it as a tune-up fight. You know what I mean? But like Boxman Steve said on Twitter, I don't think it's a good idea to fight a Mexican for a tune-up. You know what I mean? In terms of
sometimes you have to. Sometimes it's not always the case, Juan, but sometimes you have to look at a person's record on paper as well. And that fella's record on paper was, it justified everything. He could bang if you look at his record and the stoppage rate and everything.
Yeah, but I think people were probably looking at the losses on the record. People were probably looking at the losses on the record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes,
and since he had a couple defeats, you know what I mean, and his record didn't seem impressive. But that's what happens. I think it has a lot to do with the street wise. You know what I mean. Normally, a boxer comes from a lower social class. You know what I mean, from a violent background. I mean, boxing, it's contrary to what people think, and it's very it's a good filter for violent people. You know what I mean, to like Finito Lopez used to tell me, said, Juan, if I was violent, I had to get up at 5 a.m, go and run a few miles, then have breakfast, take a nap, then go to the gym. By nighttime, when I was going back home on the tube to my house, I was all mild, because I took it all in the ring, I took it all at the gym, and running in the morning. So it you know what I mean? It canalizes any violent side of someone, but it's many Mexicans that I mean, if you see the origin of boxers, they have that in common. You know what I mean? It's just they start very young. They start maybe with school fights and stuff like that, and they notice they have something for fighting, and it's just I don't know. It's like with the Brazilian in football. I think that's similar to what happens to a Mexican with boxing.
Yes.
And then sometimes, Juan, you can't underestimate a guy and say losses, because losses don't mean anything. You could have had a bad. You might not. We're all human, and we don't always feel 100%. So you have good fighters, who you can look at their losses, and they've lost against someone who wasn't very good, and sometimes that's the case. We've
absolutely
discussed this. They've overlooked the opponent, right? Amir Khan was guilty of doing the same with Prescott.
Yeah,
because Prescott had a record where he never fought outside of Colombia or something like that. So they seem to think that's a weakness. But if you, like Juan saying, most Mexican fighters start their careers when they're 14, 15. They go pro when they're 14, 15.
And you know something else as well. You know, sometimes in activity. I mean, I don't know when that Lara had last fought. Had it been in the ring in the last few months or so? I don't know. Whereas,
oh no, that's a good point, Arv. Because Josh Warrington was inactive. Warrington was inactive for a whole year, and Lara had 3 or 4 fights in 2020.
There you go.
I mean? He was all oiled up. You know what I mean?
Let's not forget about that also. You know what I mean?
Warrington was pretty rusty.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's been out for a long time. So we have to take that in consideration as well, you know?
Juan, I was going to say, I was trying to think.
Absolutely.
The last Mexican fighter that came over that wasn't any good. I can't remember the last Mexican fighter that didn't come and fight someone that was kind of teed up for one of these big fights. Every single one has come over and proved a point and shown that they're good. I mean, look at Ruiz when he fought Joshua. Everyone thought, well, what's Joshua doing fighting this guy? I mean,
Ruiz is not Mexican.
He's overweight, he's a bum and stuff. And, you know, he ends up causing a massive upset. No one expected Lara to do what he did Saturday night, and it's a massive upset. But realistically, is it a massive upset? Not really, because the quality is there. You can see it in its abundance.
Yeah. Remember what happened to also at Wembley Arena with this Mexican guy who beat in one of the lower weights. I don't remember if it was strawweight or light flyweight. ¿Cuál fue, Mr. que le pegó todavía en el piso? A Mexican that actually in a betrayal part of him, he hit the opponent when he was on the floor.
Yeah. Is that not Casemiro?
Ray Martinez. Against who?
I don't remember now the name of
who was he fighting? What was the name of
Charlie Edwards?
No,
Charlie Edwards.
Exactly. Charlie Edwards. You know what I mean?
Edwards.
For us, I mean, even Ray Martinez was a surprise there. Exactly. Let me tell you an exception to the rule, Steve. This is, for instance, when Chunky DeGale, when he fought Perry Van, Mr. and I, we come in a fight from Perry Van against Yildirim, the Turkish guy who's fighting Canelo in 2 weeks. And Perry Van told me when he fought DeGale that when he was getting up in the plane, I mean, at the airport, his trainer abandoned him. He said, I cannot go. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden, he went by himself to England. You know, I told him, you should have told me at least. I mean, to have someone, you know, I mean, doing, you know, some diligences in terms of having you train there. And he got there. They didn't give him a place where to train. And it was, I don't think this was Mr. Eddie Hearn's thing, because he's more loyal in those terms of, you know, I mean, giving the opponent a decent, you know what I mean, accommodation and a decent place where to train and everything. Because, for instance, Thailand has the reputation of if the gym is 2 blocks away from your hotel, they ask the taxi driver to take an hour to get to the gym, for instance. You know what I mean? They just go in circles, and I know you don't do that in England. We don't do that here either, you know. But what Perry Van told me is that maybe it was an excuse, I don't know, but he told me he got there on very uneven circumstances, without a manager, you know what I mean, without anyone translating for him, just you know, just thrown there in the hotel and without a place where to train. And he went there just as a sacrificial lamb, you know what I mean? But most of the times when fighters go to England in decent conditions and with good anticipation and everything, they normally put up a fight. even if they go massively as underdogs.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yes,
And,
man. When you think of it like that, it is a bit balmy. The whole like Arv will tell you more, you know, but it's like the whole getting a fighter here, you know, looking after his needs, you know, pampering him basically. Some of the away fighters don't get any of that, do they? And I don't think your man on Saturday, Lara, I think even the bookies, no one give him a chance. And he come over and he bashed Warrington up, didn't he? Bad.
Yeah, I mean, also, Warrington was undefeated, you know, so it was very unlikely that a guy with a very modest record, and in all honesty, Lara wasn't even famous here either. You know what I mean? I mean, we knew him just a bit more than you do because we had him on the local Saturday cards and stuff like that. But Bronco Lara, as they call him, he wasn't famous here. I mean, he was not a Berchelt or, I mean, nevertheless Canelo, but I mean, he was not even an Oscar Valdez or someone with a name, not at all. You know, I mean, I didn't know the guy personally.
Did
you know, so
did
this
you
was
see his, did you
it was
see
a
his
major
4 fights
upset
last year? Juan, did you see his 4
Yeah,
fights last year? Then what
No.
was he like? Was he good?
¿Tú viste, Mister, a Lara antes de que me preguntas
No,
si lo viste
para
en alguna
nosotros,
de las peleas el año pasado?
I don't think so. I don't remember to watch a lot of fights yesterday. No, I don't remember.
Yeah,
Lara.
before. Me neither.
It's a Bronco Lara. It is?
Yeah,
No.
Mauricio Bronco Lara.
I mean,
I don't
Well,
remember
Bronco
him.
is
I don't
the
remember
nickname.
him.
Juan, will
Me
he
neither.
get a big opportunity, you think, after doing what he done, you know, winning that fight the other night? Do you think a big opportunity will come from this, as he's always fought on the little small cards and stuff? Do you think he'll get a big opportunity after his
Absolutely, because now the attention. I don't know if you agree with me, but now the attention in those weights is put in super featherweight where Berchelt is at, and you know, and lightweight, or where, you know, Tank Davies, where, you know, Shakur Stevenson. You know what I mean? All the attention, I think, it's centered now in 130 to 135.
Correct.
You know, in those weights. So featherweight is not as popular right now. So I think Warrington is going to ask for a rematch. I mean, for starters, I mean, he has, you know, even if his belt was not on the line, a loss is a loss. You know what I mean? I mean, who cares about the organizations now? You know, when they have silvers and regulars and supers and
I mean,
don't get started on
you
that.
know what's important now are the names. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Juan, you know, he gave the belt up though, don't you? You know that he gave that IBF title up for someone else to fight for it. Was you aware of that?
Yeah, I just thought I thought it was just a combat fight.
No.
So he gave away his title, or was it in hold?
He gave his title up and intended to. Yeah, vacated it to take on a Yank.
Okay. Que dejó vacante su título Josh Warrington, Mister, y por eso no estaba en juego.
Oh,
because why? Octavio is asking, why did he vacate the title?
He vacated that to after this fight, he was going to fight for another world title.
We're supposed to be fighting for a world title, but nothing ever happened. Nothing ever come of it, did it?
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
So,
but
was
Warrington in a superior weight now, or in the same weight?
In a higher weight?
No, same weight. Same weight.
he vacated, Mister, because he wants to fight for another belt.
Okay. Okay.
But also at 130, 126. I mean,
That's right.
and also at featherweight.
Featherweight, same weight.
Hold on, give me 1 sec. I had a technical issue. I don't know what it's.
Yeah, we can't see you anymore.
But Washington now is very hurt to the jaw and the ear and another part of their body. What's going to happen with him now?
He was severely concussed in the fight, I think, from round 4.
Uh-huh.
I think his equilibrium went. I don't know.
Yes. Okay, I am agree.
Yeah, and I don't think he recovered from the shot, from the first knockdown.
All right.
You know, that's just my opinion.
Because in round 4, when you could see his legs had gone, you could see he could hardly even walk. And when he was going back to his corner, who was the referee? Was Howard Foster, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Howard Foster.
I think so.
He should have called it off there and then, but he didn't, and he allowed him to step back into his corner and recover. But they were heavy shots, and you could see that it should have been finished there.
But Warrington is going to walk to her corner completely hurt. He's walking very bad. So when he walk to your corner.
Unfortunately, Mister, some of the referees in the UK are guilty of maybe, like we said earlier, letting a fight go too far.
Yes.
There's one example. I can't remember the referee. Maybe Arv can help me. Kovalev, when Kovalev come to UK, he fought Nathan Cleverly.
Oh, I can't even remember who was refereeing that time.
And he was beating up. Kovalev was beating up Cleverly, and the referee took Cleverly and placed him in the corner into the stall. He should have waved the fight off, but he didn't. He took Cleverly and walked him to the corner.
I can't remember. I can't remember who it was. So I remember the fight.
Give me 1 second. I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it.
Yeah, Cleverly and Kovalev, and I think it was the end of the 3rd round.
Sergey Kovalev. Copy.
Kovalev was.
You know what I think it happens, Rich?
Yeah.
When what happens in England, and it happens here as well.
Yeah.
And Mr. is not going to let me lie. Is that when a boxer is the local one, the local hero, and he's getting punished, there's always this hope that he recovers. You know what I mean? So they give him and they give him extra time, which works out for the worst, because he just gets overly punished, without need. And te preguntan de la pelea, Mister, de Kovalev contra Cleverly, que dicen que le dieron un tiempote a Cleverly para que se recuperara. Pues solo pasó que lo golpearon peor. Well, and that's when, actually, Octavio, if you can tell him, I'm sorry, about this fight that you dislike the referee so much because he gave Chico Martinez, even though the fight became brutally famous and it's a major fight, there's no discussion about that, between Jose Luis Castillo and Chico Corrales, not Martinez, I'm sorry, Chico Corrales, where Corrales was virtually dead. The fight should have been stopped.
Yes,
and the referee just gave him more time. How long was it? 20 seconds, or how long did the referee give him, Octavio?
No. And the first 20 seconds in the first, 20 seconds in the first, and 24 in the second knockdown.
Yes.
In the same round.
With the gum shield.
You know what I mean? 24 seconds, for the love of God, when Octavio got crucified in you know, and I'm sure we're going to get to that point, but Mr. got crucified in in Tyson versus Douglas, because they said it was too long of a count, and we have counted, and it's maximum. He was a second long. When in Corrales against Castillo, it was 24 seconds, for the love of God.
Yeah. It was the famous gum shield incident, wasn't it, where he spat the gum shield out, and then they walked into the corner. Yeah.
Que escupió el protector bucal, Mr. Chico Corrales.
Twice. Yes.
And also,
and the first one, 20 seconds, and the second one, 24 seconds in the same round. He had the opportunity to Corrales knockout, technical knockout to Jose Luis Castillo, because the referee, Tony Weeks, stopped the fight immediately when to Corrales gave many seconds. In the case of the Tyson Douglas, when Douglas is knocked down, Douglas put his right arm, elbow in the canvas, and he took the canvas, but he's okay. And I have to the timekeeper and me only 1 second the difference.
Yeah.
But they refused me to a long ¿cómo se llama cuenta?
Long
Count.
The count. A ver, Mister, dímela toda, este mismo enunciado, dímelo en español y yo se los voy traduciendo, porque esto lo editan ellos y para que tenga más sentido. He's going to say it in Spanish and I'm going to try to translate it. Okay? Dilo todo, Mister.
En el momento que cae Douglas a la lona, él levanta la cabeza y cae con el codo derecho apoyándose en la lona, y eso era sinónimo de que estaba bien, y todavía da un golpe en la lona diciendo que me pescó, que yo estaba bien.
Espérame, Mister.
Y se levanta.
Okay. Espérame, Mister, porque si no me cuesta trabajo traducir todo eso. The moment Douglas hits the canvas, he gives an immediate signal to Meyran that he's okay, because he leans on his elbow, you know, in signs of and he give him a look like saying, "I'm okay. I got caught." You know what I mean? It's like it was like saying it was an isolated punch. I mean, Meyran could tell immediately that Douglas was well when he got knocked down by Tyson.
Si ven la repetición,
¿Qué más, Mister?
Si ven la repetición de la pelea,
if you watch the replay,
ven que de inmediato le empiezo a contar a Douglas porque yo empujo a Tyson a su esquina.
He says, if you watch the replay, he immediately starts the count. There's maximum a second of separation with one of the commissioners, because he pushes Tyson to a neutral corner and starts the count immediately. Y además lo comienzas donde el comisionado te indica desde afuera, ¿no, Mister?
Un segundo menos. El tomador de tiempo japonés el tomador de tiempo japonés tenía 3 segundos con un guante blanco y yo llevaba 2.
Okay, the timekeeper in Japan had the clock with 2 seconds of Douglas 3 seconds of Douglas in the canvas, while Meyran had 2 seconds in his count. He was 1 second behind. He admits that. ¿Qué más, Mister?
Pero las cuentas, al final, las cuentas tanto para Tyson como para Douglas fueron exactamente iguales, con los mismos 2 segundos al iniciar el conteo.
He said that the counts for both knockdowns, for Douglas knockdowns and for Tyson Douglas, for Tyson's knockdown, was identical. With he started the count after 2 seconds, because once he pushes Tyson to a neutral corner and gives suspicious, right, mister?
Yes, he told me.
Yeah.
If you see Tyson hurt, be soft with him. If you see Douglas hurt, stop the fight immediately.
Wow.
5 minutes up, 5 minutes only before going up to the ring. That's the problem. That is the next fight to the Tyson was with Evander Holyfield,
Yes.
a millionaire fight.
Yeah.
And this fight in Japan, it's only a joke because they pay to the Japanese people. ¿Cómo se dice deuda, Juan?
A debt.
A debt to the other fight
Debt.
when the Tyson won in the first round.
Yeah. What Octavio is trying to say is that the WBC was in debt with the Japanese organization because the previous time that Tyson fought in Japan, it was only a one-rounder. I mean, Tyson crushed the other guy in one round, so the crowd in Japan was disappointed because they want to see more. Even though they knew it was Tyson fighting, and his fights were quick. You know what I mean? This was like a consolation fight for the Japanese.
Yes, correct.
You know, to have Tyson just doing an ordinary defense of his title in Japan. So there was this line that Octavio received, and let me tell you the fundamentals of this line that he received from Mr. Jose Sulaiman. It was because prior to the fight with Buster Douglas, Tyson got knocked down by one of the sparring partners at the gym. So that sent like the red flags. Do you remember the name of the sparring, Octavio?
Greg Page.
Greg Page.
Greg Page.
Greg Page.
Greg Page.
Greg Page. He knocked down Tyson in a sparring session prior to the fight, and Tyson was having, as you know, problems in his personal life. So they were very aware. I mean, they were very worried. And it was not only Sulaiman there. Next to him was sitting Don King, and next to Don King was Donald Trump. All, you know what I mean, all had interest in the Golden Goose. You know what I mean? So we're talking power there, you know?
Yeah. we all know that fight, Juan. We all know that Buster Douglas Tyson fight was about money. We knew there was going to be some controversy in there. No one actually gave Buster the belt straight after, did they? There was a lot of lawsuits to be made, and there was a lot of money lost, and everything like that, as well as what you've said, because, like you say, the boxing was about money. The fight they wanted was the Tyson and Holyfield fight in '91, if I remember. So they wanted.
There you go.
So they wanted Tyson to win the fight. However, Tyson, instead of saying, you know what, Tyson got absolutely beat up because he didn't train and everything like that, Don King was waving his hands around, throwing what we call in the UK a hissy fit. Oh, the long count. Oh, this, the belt wasn't working. Oh, Tyson, get the rematch. Oh, the belts are not going to Buster Douglas. We all knew it was because of Don King lost a few quid that night, let's just say, yeah?
Absolutely. Quit some battles, mister. Quit is
Tell her,
Mr.
tell
Quid.
them,
Quid is a
Jose
slang for pounds. They lost a few quid. I think it was more than a few.
and
$1 million quid probably.
the next day, in the elevator, Sulaiman told me, very angry, nos hizo perder $200 millones. ¿Cómo lo dices, Juan?
Yeah. The next day at the hotel lift, Sulaiman was very, very mad and told Meyran, you made us lose $200 million. 200 millones, dijo Mister.
200 millones de dólares.
He said, you made us lose $200 million. And he wanted Meyran, once they got back to Mexico, to, you know what I mean, to say it was his fault. And that's where the disagreement begun. Because Meyran, he stood up with, I mean, he was honest with himself, and he was not going to say it was his fault when it wasn't.
No. Bastards.
So
that is
so they hung you out
that's
to
the story.
dry. Is what we say in the UK. They hung you out to dry, basically.
Exactly. Que te echaron debajo del camión, Mister.
It's correct. But I'm trying to be honest all my life, in my life, in the boxing, in my business. All the time I was honest 100%. And that's it. That's my story.
And you did you refereed some good fights over the years, didn't you?
Yes.
And you I remember you said you were in the UK twice. Azuma Nelson, was that the fight?
Azuma Nelson
in Birmingham, is that right? Birmingham?
Yes, correct.
And before that
he won in the first round to the end of the third round to Pacquiao.
Azuma Nelson was an animal in the boxing term. And then you also refereed Alan Minter, is that right?
That's correct, with Vito Antuofermo in Wembley Arena.
The first of the two fights, Mister, was that the one that was a draw?
No.
Okay.
TKO to Alan Minter. Antuofermo lose in the 8th round, TKO.
Okay.
You know,
what was the result of their other fight? Was that did they have a draw in the second fight? Oh no, Antuofermo drew to Marvin Hagler. I'm mistaken.
He drew to Hagler.
Yeah, I was mistaken. No, Alan Minter beat Vito Antuofermo. You're right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Juan, I do want to say, Juan, would you agree with me? As Mr. Mina, this to be a referee is such a hard job, because if you let it go on too long, you get told you let the fight go on too long. If you stop it prematurely, you get told off. You stop it prematurely. Would you agree? And sometimes it makes it so hard.
Dice Arf, Mister, que es una profesión muy difícil la de ser referee, porque si detienes la pelea demasiado tarde, vas a ser criticado por detenerla tarde. Y si la detienes prematurely, you're going to be criticized for stopping it prematurely. I have to say on his behalf that was one of his biggest assets, to have a good read of the fight. That's what made Octavio Meyran such a good referee. He had a very good read of the fight, and he allowed boxers to go on when he saw that they had a chance.
Yeah.
But when it was a one-sided fight and there was no hope, and it was just a systematic beating, he used to stop the fights at the right time.
Fantastic.
How was Leonard and Duran? How was that?
Ooh. That's another story. You tell him,
This is
Mr.
another story. This is another story.
Come on, we want to hear.
¿Lo traduces, Juan?
No más.
Sí, ¿lo
Y que
traduces?
les cuentes de... Claro. He's asking me to translate to go a little smoother. Okay.
Okay.
It was in New Orleans, wasn't it, Mister? Or was
It's
the one in
correct.
Montreal?
No,
in New Orleans.
in New
Right?
Orleans.
New Orleans,
The second one in New Orleans.
New Orleans. The second fight. Yeah.
The second fight, yes. Te lo voy a decir en español. En el
Acuérdate de,
octavo...
Mister, acuérdate de hacer pausa para que yo traduzca. Mister.
Sí, ok.
Acuérdate de hacer pausas para que yo traduzca.
Sí, despacito. En el octavo round.
A ver, sobre todo que hagas pausas.
Ok, en el octavo round,
A ver,
después de un clinch.
on the 8th round.
después de un clinch, sorpresivamente da la espalda Durán, después de que todo ese round lo había estado jugando Leonard con él.
Espérame, mister. Yeah. On the 8th round, Leonard was really toying with Duran, and surprisingly, Duran turned his back. Out of the blue, he turned his back to Duran, which of course you can't do as a boxer. Adelante, mister.
Entonces, la verdad me sorprendió y no lo declaro descalificación para que no me fuera a sorprender alegando que lo habían pisado o dado un cabezazo.
Okay, so when he turned his back, he didn't disqualify Duran immediately, so that Duran couldn't argue that he got stepped in or that he got a head kick. You know what I mean? He didn't want to give any excuses to Duran to say it was wrongly stopped the fight, so he didn't disqualify him just yet.
Entonces, ordeno reanudar el combate, me dice algo que no entiendo al principio, moviendo la mano, y por segunda ocasión le digo que reanude el combate, y es cuando me dice, no más.
Okay, so after he turns his back, he reorders, to go back to fight, and Duran does like a hand gesture with his hand, and says something that Meyran didn't copy what Duran was trying to say, and that's when Duran clearly said to him in Spanish, "No más, no more."
Then,
which now Duran denies, by the way. Síguele, mister.
Y entonces allá en ese momento que en la segunda ocasión dice no más, ya lo declaro fuera de combate y pierde por nocaut técnico en el 8º round, pero fue nocaut técnico porque fue por pelea, por golpe, o sea, por golpes, o sea, no haber dado descalificación por haber dado la espalda, se calificó como nocaut técnico.
Okay, so the second time Duran says to Meyran, "No más," that's when Meyran decides to put a hole to the context and declarely a TKO, not a disqualification, because he stopped fighting because of the blows. You know what I mean? So it was declared a TKO, not a DQ, not disqualification. On the 8th round. ¿Correcto, mister?
Exactamente, lo hice de esa manera,
okay,
precisamente para que ellos Durán, que después supimos que no se había entrenado lo suficiente porque le habían avisado con muy poco tiempo de que se iba a hacer esa revancha, pero en ese momento no lo sabíamos.
Okay, well, he found out later on that Duran hadn't properly trained for the fight because he was told, with lack of anticipation that the rematch was taking place in New Orleans. I mean, like it caught him in the party. In other words, you know what I mean? Duran wasn't prepped for that fight, so that was kind of an excuse, and it was a disappointing fight. By all means, after the great fight in Montreal, I mean, this one was disappointed because Duran never showed up on the fight, you know what I mean? And Leonard was toying with him.
Pues esa fue la historia, en total. Pues ya, perdió Duran y se acabó.
But Duran denied time later. I don't know if years later or immediately later, you tell us, he denied that he said to you, "No más," didn't he?
It's correct, but we have
que te dijo no más, mister.
Inclusive hay una fotografía donde está precisamente, una fotografía que te mandé, donde está diciéndome directamente con el guante derecho, no más. O sea, y si se ve en la repetición, se ve el accionar de que que tiene un pequeño diálogo conmigo.
Okay. He says if you watch the replay, I mean, answering to Duran's, he complained that he never said no mass. He said, Meyran says you can clearly watch it on the replay. He's doing it with his glove, and you can tell that Duran is talking to Meyran. So what Octavio is saying here is that he's not inventing the dialogue, that he's 100% certain that Duran told him that he didn't want to fight no more.
Yo creo que él ni siquiera se debe de acordar en lo absoluto de que lo dijo, porque yo que ganaba con inventar algo, porque yo cuando bajé del ring, el periodista, no sé si era uno de los narradores o un periodista, me preguntó que qué me había dicho Duran, y fue cuando yo le dije, no más. De ahí nació el no más, de lo que me dijo Duran arriba del ring, que de inmediato se lo dije al periodista.
Okay. He says that he's not sure if Duran, what happens is that Duran doesn't actually remember what happened. But what Mr. is saying, he says, I was not going to benefit from stopping the fight. It was actually bad for the show. He wanted the fight to go on. He wanted Duran to keep fighting and to put up a fight. So there was no benefit for Meyran whatsoever stopping the fight. He just had to do it because the boxer didn't want to fight no more. And he says that the proof of that is that once he walked down from the ring, there was this journalist or a TV announcer. He's not certain, but that's when he asked him, and that's why this is an ESPN 30 for 30 documentary about that, where Meyran appears, called No Mas, where when Meyran was coming down from the ring, this journalist asked him, "What did Duran tell you?" Because he noticed that Duran told him something, and Meyran said no mas, and that's why the fight is now known as the no mas fight in Spanish, like that. No translation. Nobody calls it the no more fight. Everybody calls it the no mas fight. You know what I mean?
Well, I was going to say to you, obviously you mentioned between you and Mr. You give that a great explanation of what happened back then, and right through Mr.'s career, it's been a very distinguished career, and he's very clearly by the way things are described, he's clearly very responsible in the way that he makes his decisions. And I know that Mr. mentioned earlier that the British referees seem to take too long to make decisions. I mean, aside of that aspect, what do you and Mr. make of the standards of refereeing now in the boxing game, especially the British referees? I mean, what are your thoughts on the whole of those people?
¿Copiaste, mister? Un poco habla de la honestidad con la que tú siempre te has manejado y por qué llegaste tan alto en tu carrera, y qué piensas actualmente de los referees hoy en día, es particularmente de los británicos, pero háblale también de los que no te gustan, de Bird y de Nate y de todos estos.
Well, tradúcemelo, Juan, porque sí está largo y no me lo voy a...
Claro.
Bueno,
está funcionando mejor así.
Sí, I prefer the translation of Juan is much better for us. We talk better. Okay.
That's fine.
Los que hemos visto actualmente, sobre todo en Las Vegas, que es frecuente.
The referees we've seen lately, particularly in Vegas, which is very frequently.
Todos los que hemos visto son bastante malos porque no tienen un criterio ni honestidad justa.
Okay, all the ones that we've seen lately, especially in Vegas, are not good referees because they don't have a good judgment and they don't seem to be totally honest. And and not have a side for one of the boxers, have a preference for one of the boxers.
Yeah.
Which him as a referee, he never had a preference.
Sobre todo cuando el peleador que protegen es el que está siempre arriba de las apuestas.
Especially the boxer that they are, the A-side boxer, going back to that term, it's obviously, high in the ranks and also in the betting world, so it's kind of suspicious, the performance from some of the referees in Vegas.
Okay.
Un ejemplo sería Manny Pacquiao con Juan Manuel Márquez, que aunque Juan Manuel se comprobó que había ganado las peleas, nunca se las dieron hasta que noqueó a Pacquiao para convencer. Siempre protegieron a Pacquiao porque era el que vendía.
He said one clear example of that, of what he's trying to say, it was the saga between Marquez and Pacquiao, where there were fights like the third one where it was very clear that Marquez won, and they always gave him they always gave the fights to Pacquiao until he got knocked out cold, because he's the one that was that was bringing money to the business.
True,
I mean, Pacquiao was the popular name.
It was the A side, wasn't it?
Juan, would you and Mr. therefore say that there needs to be a massive overhaul of the refereeing and the standards that are being portrayed around the world, especially in sort of Vegas by what he's mentioned, and me, Richie Arv, we constantly sort of berate some of the decisions. I mean, who was the fight, Richie, that was on Saturday? It was Kiko, wasn't it?
Kiko Martinez and Zelfa Barrett.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable, Juan. The fight all day long was Kiko's fight. He absolutely dominated Zelfa, but for some reason, it was a wide margin score for Zelfa. My jaw hit the ground.
It was the judges. The judges. See, over here, Juan, the referees are also appointed judges.
Oh, yeah. Like back in the day here as well.
Yeah.
Hablan
de Kiko Martínez.
Hablan del robo a Kiko Martínez y de que ellos estilan que el referee también sea un juez. En la cultura británica. Ajá. Entonces, pero ¿qué opinaste de esa pelea? Yo no la vi.
Bueno, no la vi completa, pero sí alcancé a ver los highlights. Y efectivamente no se puede dar un juicio muy muy amplio porque no la vi completa, nada más los highlights, pero en lo que yo vi, Kiko Martínez ganó la pelea.
He totally agrees with you. He says he can't give a larger explanation because he didn't see the full fight. He saw the full fight of Lara against Warrington, but he didn't see the full fight of Kiko Martinez, but he saw the highlights. And from what he saw, it was clear that Kiko Martinez won the fight. Entonces, pero ¿cuál es tu explicación a eso, mister? O sea, ¿inclinación del referee o de los jueces o qué es?
No,
¿localismo o qué es?
Que fue para tratar, o bueno, una protección total al peleador local. Absolutamente.
He's saying it was a total protection of the local boxer.
Yeah.
The other guy was the older guy who nobody cares if Kiko Martinez has another loss in his, in his resume. So it was a way to protect the local boxer in his view.
Además, las noticias,
las
noticias que vimos después de la pelea, el mismo día de la pelea, decían que había sido un robo por todo mundo. Era el comentario generalizado de que Kiko Martínez había ganado la pelea. Y cuando vi yo estuve de acuerdo cuando vi lo poco que alcancé a ver en los highlights.
Yeah, and he's saying that it was, it was the common denominator that after the card, everybody was commenting on social media and on the TV that Kiko Martinez got robbed. So that's in general terms, that's what people fancies about the British cards now, that we find the referee in general better than in the States, especially in Vegas, because anything can happen in Vegas. You know what I mean? In Vegas, you see some, just outrageous things like when a judge, who was the judge, Mr. who gave Canelo a draw against Mayweather? Was it the you know what I mean? That was a joke. I mean, was that Bird? Was Adelaide Bird? Or was it
Triple G
or Judy Leatherman?
Canelo. Adelaide Bird is in Triple G Canelo.
Triple G Canelo. Yeah, she gave 8 points, difference to Canelo in such a close fight, for the love of God. And there was this other female judge,
Eugenia Williams,
in Canelo versus Mayweather, that gave a draw to the fight.
Was that not Eugenia Williams?
What's her name?
Eugenia Williams?
Eugene Williams.
Eugene. That's right.
Eugenia.
So that's outrageous. So in general terms, the British cards here have a reputation of being a little more fair, as well, I must say, as the ones in New York. The worst reputation, the ones where you see outrageous judging is in Vegas. Like now it's almost a habit in the fights that one of the judges gives the fight to a split decision. When some fights are clearly unanimous decision, they're clearly won by the winner of the fight, and one of the judges for some reason gives it a draw, or actually gives the fight to the one who loses. I don't know if they make something out of the controversy or what, because you can even hear the crowd. Well, not right now during the pandemic, but in a normal circumstances, you can hear the crowd booing, because some of those decisions are just out of this world. And that's bad for boxing.
Do you know what, Juan? It's quite interesting that you just said that obviously you and Mr. think that the refereeing's fair in the UK, but I mean, me, Richie, and we're flabbergasted that some of the decisions. We're like, crikey! I mean,
I know.
You only have to look at the Katie Taylor and Pursoon fight. It was never a Katie Taylor win, and it was all day a Pursoon fight. I mean, there's example after example, but I mean, I'm just wondering, what do you, Mr. think could be changed? I mean, how could it be changed to make it fairer across the world, or some kind of regulation brought in to enhance the just the overall levels of the refereeing and the judging being portrayed? Because it seems to me that there's pockets around the world and stuff, especially as you mentioned Vegas, that for me, corruption, it just seems to be rife.
¿Qué crees, Mister, que pregunta Steve, que se pueda hacer para hacerlo más justo el refereo en las peleas, y que no haya estas, y el jueceo también, y que no haya estas decisiones estrambóticas y totalmente injustas?
Pues es que lo primero que deberían de hacer los organismos mundiales y las comisiones locales es ser imparciales.
The first thing that is needed is to find neutral judging and refereeing, you know what I mean, and from all the organizations, because they are not, and that's what Mr. says. And let me add something, Steve, if I may. You can tell how the back in the day, I mean, if someone huge like Muhammad Ali lost a fight to Ken Norton or to Leon Spinks, for instance, here came the revenge or the rematch, And well, if the current champion was Ken Norton, I mean, Ali would walk first to the ring, because then there was the defending champion of the belt was Ken Norton. But now, I mean, and excuse my French, but now the organization seemed like the bitch of the popular fighter, because what happens now? I mean, to me, it is let me find the proper term, but it is oh my God, you help me with the word, but I couldn't understand, for instance, in Callum Smith against Canelo, never mind the outcome of the fight, just the fact that Callum Smith was the current super middleweight world champion, and he comes out first to the ring. I mean, even and he was defending the WBA super world, whatever the term is, with their super and their regular, but you know what I mean? Super world championship. Yeah, you understand. And I mean, Mundo Smith should have come to the ring after Canelo. You know what I mean? He was the defending champion. I mean, nobody makes a big deal out of that, because they say, well, but Canelo is the one who brings the money. Canelo is the popular one. Canelo is the one who has exposure. I don't care. Back in the day, being a champion had a meaning. You know what I mean? So even the organizations, you know, if the WBC and the WBA, if they are allowing things like this, it's because they're saying money rules. You know what I mean? But they're saying, you know, money has always ruled, but at least they hide it a little better before. You know what I mean? Yeah. Admitting the challenger to come out to the ring later, I mean, after the champion, to me, is totally outrageous.
Oye, Juan.
It is against the tradition of boxing.
Pero dentro de lo que decía Steve, es aparte de ser imparcial, deben de utilizar gente más joven, sobre todo para los referees, para que tengan una mayor movilidad, y estudiar muy bien los reglamentos, porque muchas veces no saben aplicar el reglamento correctamente, y por eso es que los jueces dan las malas calificaciones, porque no rebajan puntos con los fouls, no hacen un trabajo completo, porque el referee lo primero que debe de tener es proteger al peleador. Ese es su trabajo, y que se respete el reglamento.
Okay, so Meyran wants to add something to his answer to your question, Steve. He thinks that not only being neutral will be the first step to doing judging and refereeing better, but also to use younger referees. He thinks referees like Bird or like Nady or like those referees, or maybe Foster, we could add to the list, have lack of mobility. So and that affects, you know, I mean, he likes the more mobile referees. And he also thinks that the rules are kind of ambiguous. He thinks there's not a single, I mean, that sometimes the referee don't know the rule, you know, by the book. You know what I mean? One thing is the interpretation of the book, but they need to know the book. You know, they need to know the rules. I mean, you know, number by number. And he also thinks that's why sometimes they are too, let's say, too soft to some boxers, because they don't deduct points when they should deduct points, like with head bound, you know what I mean, with when it is obviously that they were on purpose, or with low blows and stuff. They give too much tolerance to some fighters, instead of applying the rules of boxing as they should.
Do you think, Juan and Mr. Miss, do you think that some of these referees that are well known, like your Howard Fosters and people like that, do you think they've become more of an ego within the ring because they think they're above the fighters and they become like these sort of mini celebrities as such? Do you think that sort of corrupts the decisions and tailors the way that the fights go more to especially what is the home fighter and should dictate a win for them regardless of how the fight's actually gone? Do you think that's probably quite apparent?
Buena pregunta, Mister. Te pregunta, Steve, si crees que referees como Howard Foster y otros, que tú me lo has mencionado, para que critiques a algunos de estos que les gusta como el protagonismo y que por tratar de ser celebridades, de repente como que corrompen la pulcritud del boxeo.
Ese es uno. Dime.
No, como estos que tú luego me has mencionado, que son referees para las cámaras. Diles ese concepto porque les va a gustar.
Yo pienso que en mi caso, el que yo haya tenido la oportunidad de estar en ese tipo de peleas, Juan, fue no subir con temor si era Mike Tyson o si era algún otro nombre.
Claro.
Eran dos peleadores sin nombre, sin importar la presión que pudiera ser el gran campeón. Y no estar pensando en salir en la cámara, sino hacer con concentración mi trabajo arriba del ring.
Steve, he agrees with you about some referees trying to be the celebrity, and so his mindset before going into a fight, when he used to referee, was to think always neutral, to try not to think if he was going to referee two unknown boxers or two huge names, like when he did with because of course there's some kind of pressure when you referee Sugar Ray Leonard or Duran or Benitez or Hearns or Hagler, all the names that he refereed, or Tyson. But he tried before the fight to think it was just two boxers that he had to referee well. So instead, and there goes a message for the referees that like the cameras and the lightings and everything, instead of be thinking of the cameras and trying to be the stars of the show. You know what I mean? He said the job of the referee has to be more anonymous, has to be more silent. You know what I mean? They're not the stars of the show. The stars are the boxers.
Que tengan una
I don't
buena
know if that answers your question more or less.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
I
was going to say, I've got one other question I was going to ask. Who was your favourite fighter to referee in those sort of fights, and who's your least favourite fighter that you used to referee for?
¿Quién fue tu boxeador favorito en términos, o sea, no favorito como boxeador, sino para referear, que digas, este se comportó muy bien, y quién por el contrario fue el más difícil, el más odiado que tuviste, o sea, el más odioso de referear? He's thinking. Wow. You got him thinking, Mike.
My best boxer up in the ring to make my job, José Ángel Mantequilla Nápoles, the Cuban Mexican fighter.
Yeah,
this is the best. This is my idol.
Yeah,
but
Nápoles,
the one that lost to Monzon.
Yeah. He fought Stracy as well.
The worst. No one. I don't remember.
You told me, Mister, don't say that. You told me when Wilfredo Gomez fought Azuma Nelson or someone that you went and warned him about his elbows and everything. Was that Wilfredo or I'm remembering wrong?
No,
Tú me dijiste que Wilfredo Gómez o alguien le fuiste a decir en el vestidor que cuidado con los codos y todo por lo mañoso que era. ¿Cuál era ese?
Bueno, sí, Wilfredo Gómez, pero y por eso yo fui al vestidor previo para decirle que a mí no me importaban los nombres y que yo no me importaba que fuera el campeón mundial si cometía fouls, quitaba puntos o descalificaba, y que no me importaba si fuera en Puerto Rico.
Okay. He's saying that, preventing a catastrophe with Wilfredo Gomez, knowing that he was kind of a tricky or dirty fighter, if you want to call him like that, he went to his dressing room prior to the fight, and he said very clearly, I mean, he read the note to Wilfredo and said, Wilfredo, I don't care how famous you are, and I don't care if the fight is taking place in Puerto Rico. I'm not going to allow tricks, and I'm not going to allow faults. So he prevented Wilfredo. He said, I'm going to deduct points if I find anything tricky on you. So he wanted to make a statement to Wilfredo that he was going to referee neutral. Y hubo otro, ¿no, mister? En Italia que me dijiste que fue durísimo.
Gianfranco Rossi, en una pelea contra
Gianfranco Rossi in Italy.
No, and that time was welterweight. And that time was welterweight.
¿Y qué pasó? ¿Qué pasó con Gianfranco Rossi?
Muchos abrazos.
Holding on.
He was clinching too much.
Yeah, he was a hugger.
12 rounds completely. That is an impossible fight.
Wow.
Okay. It was an impossible fight to referee because he was clinching all the time.
All the time clinching, all the time. That was a very difficult fight for me.
Who won the fight, mister?
Sanremo in Italy.
And who won the fight? ¿Quién la ganó?
Oh, Curry, unanimous decision.
Okay.
Donald Curry.
Fighter, good fighter.
Very good.
Yeah.
Has anyone got any more questions?
That's
Lads, or
Richie, have you got one more question? I think I've just sent you. Have a quick look. Can you see it?
no?
Do you want me to say it? We're going to finish up with one last question. I'll say this. Mr. Where was your favourite fight, or what was your favourite fight that you ever refereed in the world, and why?
¿Cuál fue tu pelea favorita que refereaste y por qué, mister?
La pelea de campeonato mundial gallo vacante entre Rodolfo Martínez y Rafael Herrera, gallo, en 1973, que hoy es considerada una de las mejores 5 a nivel mundial, reconocido por muchas personas, referees mexicanos, peleadores mexicanos, perdón.
Okay. It was actually, he's going to say it was a Mexican derby back in 1973, which is known as one of the best five fights between Mexicans. I mean, among Barrera against Eric Morales, among all those brutal Mexican fights, Olivares against Castillo, Chucho Castillo, now Jose Luis, and what was it? Herrera against who, mister?
Rafael Herrera, Rodolfo Martínez.
Rafael Herrera versus Rodolfo Martínez. It was a Bacon Bantamweight World Championship fight. But tell him an international one that they may know better in overseas, mister. Una internacional que te haya encantado.
Tyson Douglas. Because
that cost you the
fight,
job.
because the fight was a very good fight.
Yeah. Douglas was awesome. That
Yeah.
The results is completely different. Okay, but the fight it was a very good fight.
Yeah.
Let
This is
me add
exciting.
something to. I know you'll edit this, Steve. So let me add something in this respect. To me, it's pitiful that this fight cost Meyran his career, just because he didn't want to, take back his word and say that it was a mistake he made during the count or something, because they wanted to, the WBC was flirting with not making the fight official. That's why it was not until like 4 years ago that they brought Buster Douglas to give him the belt. You know what I mean? To finally recognize him as a WBC world champion.
That's correct.
What I think it's very sad about this. What I think it's very sad about this anecdote is that after that fight, the WBO, which was an organism that was just it was in their early stage, they got him to referee a world championship fight in Acapulco, Mexico. And then the guys from the WBO got a phone call and say, no, you cannot be calling Meyran to referee anymore. I mean, that they influence other organisms. He could still have been a referee for many years to come, maybe not for the WBC, but for the WBA, for the WBO, for the IBO, you know what I mean? But there was, in Canastota, New York. So I think that's very sad, and how his career got abruptly short. You know what I mean? It was.
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I mean, it's been absolutely amazing tonight speaking to both of you, and I think Richie won't mind me saying this, and I won't mind me saying this, but we'd love to get you back on. I mean, I feel like we could speak to you both for hours. I mean, the stories that you've got are so interesting. I mean, it's been an amazing hour and a half already. I feel like we could sit here all night at this rate. So we'd love to get you back on at some stage. But yeah, really, really appreciate you guys coming on and giving us the time. It's been amazing.
It's amazing for me that I appreciate your words, Steve, and thank you very much.
Yeah, absolute legend, Mr. Mister, that's for sure. And you, Juan. I mean, there's only one Juan. That's all I've got to say.
Yes, I know.
Same here, mate. You don't know. It's such a it's a pleasure, mate, just to put a face to your names. You know what I mean? Because we're Twitter friends, so it's cool to see Art with his glasses and to see to see Rich. You know what I mean? I never want to get into a fight with Rich because I can tell. I mean, I'm kind of a large Mexican, but he's a huge Brit. You know what I mean? So if I fight at super,
likewise,
you know and
6'5", right?
Yeah. My pleasure, Stephen. Thank you.
Likewise,
you know what I mean,
Mr. Mina.
Our pleasure.
Arv, Steve, Richie. You have a new friend here in Mexico.
Thank you.
For any time.
Gracias.
Thank you very much.
Gracias, señor.
I appreciate it.
Mr. Thanks, Juan.
Adios. Buenas noches, amigos.
Okay. Thanks very much indeed, Mike.
Take care, Mr. Mister.
Thank you very much.
Ciao, ciao.
Adios.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.